Oh my gosh. Okay, very near calamity. Like, really kind of frightening thing just happened. So I'm just on my way back from Joshua Tree. We were driving last night, so okay, here's the thing. When I got to Joshua Tree, I realized that the nut that holds my door onto the hinge, the very bottom one on the bottom hinge, was missing. It had fallen off at some point, and I don't know when. So, okay, well, I'll just fix that, you know, in the next town or when I get back. And, you know, stupidly, I wasn't too concerned. And so last night I drove, you know, all the way from Joshua Tree to Los Baños here. And when I got here, I realized the other nut had fallen off as well. Like, my door was hanging on by, you know, the screws that were pushed through, and then the top ones. Like, oh man, I was so freaked out, like my door is gonna fall off. So yeah, so right now I am putting it, I'm in the process of fixing that and putting those nuts back on. So I stopped here at Home Depot and I picked up a couple of the nuts that had fallen off, and I made sure to get stainless steel so that they wouldn't rust. And the guy also recommended that I put something called Loctite on it, and so I'm going to do that. I haven't already because, well, it says it takes up to 24 hours to cure, and so I didn't want, like, I didn't know if it would affect it if I was driving and it was vibrating or something. So as soon as I'm in a place and parked for 24 hours, I'm going to put the Loctite on there, make everything perfect. Also, I was kind of concerned about how tight to make those nuts because I didn't want to crack the fiberglass, but I don't want it coming off again either. So I tightened all four of them up, and, you know, crossing my fingers, I'm just going to keep a really close eye on them. Every time I drive on a long trip, you know, anything more than 100 miles, I'm going to give them a check, give them a little tight. So, yeah. All right, so I'm off again.
Fort Cascades with the
Today is bath day. This thing is so dirty. I can't even believe how dirty it is. So, like, we drove in the rain back from Joshua Tree and then drove in the rain all the way up here. There's just road grime and dust from lots of different, from Death Valley and Alabama Hills, Joshua Tree, from all over. Just road grime. It's just the dirtiest ever. Like, if you look right behind the wheel, it's just like, yeah, it's just turning black. So, it's bath day. Alright, so I got this side washed, and I just wanted to show you how dirty if you look on the corner, you can just see the difference between the washed and the unwashed. It's pretty huge difference. So I'm like a little over a quarter of the way done. So it's kind of a big trailer when it's so dirty. Alright, she's clean. The wheels are white. Who knew? It's amazing. I want to get the fiberglass cleaner, like the boat cleaner, and polish it and do all that stuff. There is a lot of oxidation on it, but just having a clean house, an externally clean house, it feels really good. This is really great. And yeah, boy, was there like a lot of road grime. So yesterday I washed my camper, so today we're gonna wash my car because it definitely needs it. And then next week, in a couple of days, just 2 days away, I'm gonna get new tires put on my car because it definitely needs new tires. And I have Mr. Petey here. Here's Petey. Do you see Misters? There. So, we're hanging out at my mother's, so some good times, good food. Petey and I are at Fort Cascades in Washington. And this is basically at Bonneville Dam. So Bonneville Dam is directly on the river right there. We're right on the shore of the river. And so this was a fort back around 1850. And yeah, basically there's nothing left. Everything was wiped out either in floods or just taken out. There was lots of Indians who lived here, prior to settlers coming. And so there's this really cool petroglyph rock over there with a bunch of petroglyphs. It's not the original, it's a copy of it, so they moved the original one. But yeah, the river's right here. Let me show you the river. Bonneville Dam is right behind me, and that's actually only half the dam. There's an island in the middle of the river, and then the other half of the dam is on the other side. I'll have to give you a look when we walk back up further. But as you can see, in middle of April, the river, it's really moving. There's a lot of water coming through the river right now. There were some really good storms a week ago, so I'm sure a good part of it is that. We're also in a heat wave. It's 85 degrees today. It feels hotter. It's very hot. So I'm sure there's a lot of melt water, a lot of snow melting. Petey, I think you're suffering, Petey. Are you doing okay, babies? Are you okay? This is actually a really neat trail. It's kind of fun. It's the Fort Cascades trail. And a little history, you know, Fort Cascades didn't last very long. It only went from 1856 to 1861. The fort and the army left at the very beginning of the Civil War in early 1861, but when they arrived in 1856, they were almost immediately attacked by Indians, or local Native Americans. And the fort was wiped out basically before it even started. They came back and rebuilt, and were here again until 1861. But it's kind of interesting because most of the Native Americans in this area were decimated by about 1830 due to all the illness brought by settlers. So the fact that they could wage a war even at that point is kind of amazing. Right here behind Petey and I is McNatt's grave. And Thomas McNatt owned a hotel nearby here. So he operated his hotel until his death in 1861. So right behind me is the Cascade Portage Railroad. This is just a tiny segment of the railroad here. But this operated basically beginning right around here and went up several miles up the river. Just up the river is Cascade Locks, and that was completed in 1896, the locks were. But prior to that, that was a section of the river that was completely impassable. Everything, passengers and any equipment that needed to be transferred either upriver or down, had to be taken overland. And so this railroad was really important for the very short time it lasted. Just behind me is the other side of the Bonneville Dam, and you can just see just how much water they're releasing right now. It's just a torrent of water. It's kind of amazing. And the history all around this area is pretty amazing too. All the settlers, the Indian Wars. Yeah, it's a pretty cool area. The whole gorge is, so if you get a chance, definitely spend a week or two or maybe even more in the Columbia River Gorge on both the Oregon and Washington side.